This is one of the subjects I'm looking at just now. Just to reiterate with yourselves, successful or unsuccessful. Um, I mean, most people know for the last 30 years I've been studying successful and people all my days. I actually do the Sunday slot with people from all the different backgrounds, but the key here is they've all been successful in some sort of field, in some sort of shape or form. So what's the distinctions between the groups, these two groups, successful and unsuccessful? I mean, it's not economics. I know that. It's not education. It's not demographic. I can show you that the world is full of educated idiots. And to want a better phrase, the world is also full of educated people who are not successful at what they do. But the world is also full of uneducated people that are actually outstanding at what they do, and they're extremely successful at what they do. So, and people as well, and success, actually, a lot of people actually come from broken families, terrible surroundings, but they still manage to grow to their successes and to their stratospheric levels in terms of what they've achieved. So, what is the difference? Where does that come from? I think, some of the common things that really inspire me is they immediately have a can-do attitude in the process. People with a can-do attitude approach every situation they have with the outlook, and no matter what, it can be done, even if you think it's impossible. I remember in the past, and when we were, I used to work alongside Dave Alexander, who's one of the SNP councillors, and I think he's deputy leader, if not leader of Fife Council. But one of the things that we always had was the can-do attitude in everything that we do. And I remember our boss coming to us and says, "Can you do weekly accounts?" And at that time, it was practically impossible. Everybody thought it was impossible to do weekly accounts, management accounts. But we took the attitude, it's like, yeah, it can be done. And if it can be done, how are we going to do it? And lo and behold, we're able to do it quite successfully. And everybody was quite astounded that we're able to do that because they always assumed it can't be done. But I think really that's one of the key here that successful people have, is the fact that they know it can be done and they work in a way it can be done. Michael Dell's a classic example, Dell Computers. So Michael Dell, with a can-do attitude, had this same sort of mentality with his workforce. At the time, they held a lot of stock on site to make computers. And so they held all their components, all their motherboards, everything, all the hard drives, they held all on site, and it was all owned by themselves. So they tied up all their money in that. Now, at that time, he had said, "I tell you what, we've got about how much stock have we got? Well, we've got enough stock to make a year's worth of computers." And it's like, really? Do we really need all that stock? And his staff would, yeah, we really need all that stock. And what he said to them was, look, I know we need all that stock and all the rest of it, and it maybe take us a year of stock we need, but if we could cut that down to 9 months stock, is that possible? Well, no, it will never be possible. Yeah, okay, that's fine. But then he used to say, is like, well, if it was possible, then how would we do it? So he always believed it was possible. And then lo and behold, his staff used to come back, and the team round about him used to come back and say, okay, if it was possible, this is how we would do it. Okay, let's do it then. And they would do it, and they would get down to 9 months. And then he would come back to them and say, I know we're down to 9 months, but is it possible to get down to 6 months? And then lo and behold, they would go, oh, it's impossible. He says, oh yeah, okay, that's fine. But if it was possible, how could we get it down to 6 months? And the staff would go, well, okay, if it was possible, this is how you'd need to do it. And lo and behold, guess what? They'd be down to 6 months holding the stock, and they'd still be able to manufacture and make their computers on time every single time. And then again, he would come back to them, and you know how this goes, down to 3 months stock. Can we get down to 3 months stock and just hold 3 months stock and still be able to make and keep our deadlines for our laptops and computers when people order them? Oh, it'll never be possible, Michael. Yeah, okay. But if it was possible, how could we do it? And they'd come back and say, okay, if it was possible, this is how we do it. Okay, let's do it. And they'd possibly get down to 4 months stock. But you see where that's going here, and the fact of the can-do attitude, and the fact that he always believed that was possible. and he convinced everybody else it was possible. As a result, they worked out a way for it to be possible. And that's probably one of the most important things in the beginning of how successful and unsuccessful people differentiate themselves. The successful people have the can-do attitude. No matter what the situation is, even though everybody thinks it's impossible, they still have the unwavering belief that in some shape or form, it will be possible to do it. This attitude really is more valuable than anybody than actually having a superior product or even at a lower price. And there's only one of the ways that you'll be able to accomplish massive action in terms of what you're doing. If you're not willing to approach everything with that attitude, that it can be done, then that thinking really isn't possible, and you will never take massive action to what you're doing. You must believe and convey it to others, as Michael Dell did in that situation, that the solution indeed does exist, even if you're going to have work a little harder to actually find it in the process. So incorporate that kind of can-do attitude thinking into your outlook, into your language, into your thoughts, into your actions, into your responses, into everything you actually know every single day. Help your entire company and everybody around about you develop that kind of thinking as well, and attitude, by drilling it into them every single day on a daily basis. Take even the most impossible request and figure out that how they can answer it with a can-do attitude. Get yourself and your colleagues to point out where responses like can do, no problem, we will handle it, become the norm, and nothing else is ever accepted in that process. So that's probably my first advice on how successful and unsuccessful people differentiate themselves. It doesn't matter about your background. It doesn't matter about where you're from. It doesn't matter about what hand you've been dealt in life. The reality is we can all point to someone from every single situation in life that hasn't had it as good as us, yet they've excelled far superior than us. And why is that? One of the primary beliefs is they have that can-do attitude, and you have to get that mentality as well in that process. So until next time, guys, we'll talk about tomorrow. Possibly we'll talk about believe that you'll even figure it out in the process. That's another one we want to talk about. And I'll see you later. Bye-bye for now.